Yo, yo, yo. Welcome. Proverbial boy Jeffy here today on a Wednesday, March 10th. Got a couple of things to say, got a couple of things to share, got a couple of insights, and wonderful gifts to bestow upon you. So, first and foremost, let me just turn down this sound. But this is, of course, from Beverly Hills Cop, classic Eddie Murphy film. But anyway, so the big thing on my mind is there is change in the air. The winds of change are blowing, and they're blowing hard. They're blowing real hard. And, I feel we're on the cusp. The dawn is about to break. What, of course, am I talking about? I'm talking about the end to this interminable health event, quote unquote, that we've all been experiencing globally, aka the fucking pandemic, right? This shit's about to end. And the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to get back into society at large? And look, I live in San Francisco, California, for better or worse. For better or worse, this is where I live. And I'll tell you this, we're in the kind of the most restrictive. I mean, probably a lot of you are watching this and like, well, shit's never really changed for me. I'm in Florida, But as of today, I believe 5 states are 100% open again. San Francisco, we have indoor dining back. I know a lot of people are getting that vaccine. They're getting that vaccine. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on the vaccine itself. However, I do know that when you get it, you transform into a mind-controlled lizard due to your DNA being transcribed and transcripted, redone. Now, again, for a lot of people, they may find this uncomfortable, unsettling, their lizard transformation. However, from what I understand, there's a lot of benefits to it. And depending on which vaccine you get, those benefits vary. For example, I know that if you get the Pfizer vaccine, once your lizard transformation is complete and your scales are fully formed, you actually gain immunity to like small arms fire, for like a .22, pistols and things like that. They'll just bounce right off the scales. Additionally, you get a what do they call it? Like a forked tongue that can flick in and out very swiftly. And with the Moderna, I think that's the other one. With the Moderna, you get like nictitating membranes over the eyelids, and additionally the ability to camouflage yourself like a gecko. Now, again, this is just what I hear. I can't say that this is the truth or not. Okay, so for the fact checkers out there, don't hold me to that, but just what I hear. So, once you're a lizard and you're out back in the world at large, are you going to be able to actually get out there? Now, I say this. I feel the wind. And this is what I'm saying. I'm saying a pressure is building. A pressure's been building over the past year. And this summer, this spring and summer, it's going to be like a shaken up champagne bottle that's about to explode. Right? People are very desperate for human contact, human communication, to get back out there. And I guess the question remains is, are you ready to get back out there? Because look, a lot of people, they've been in isolation for so long, you may be going a little stir crazy. Maybe you've forgotten how to read other people, how to socialize in general. But I'm seeing a certain sense of desperation that is about to overflow. And I've heard several instances of, people I know who were like roommates, who ended up hooking up with each other and like moving in together. Let's see how long those little relationships last. Like some kind of Stockholm syndrome. Like they went through some traumatic experience together, and then by necessity, they hooked up. Well, what happens in those? And by the way, these people, don't want to hate on these people too bad, but like the dudes are classic examples of guys who have like little to no game, let's just say. like an inability to meet people in the real world, and now they've like kind of fallen into these relationships because they were just around the girl so long, and the girl wanted to, you know, have some of that human contact too. And she's like, well, I guess this guy's better than nothing. Well, what happens when they go back out to the bars and now there's like that whole panoply of choice available? Who knows what will happen? I'm sure it's true love and they'll stay together forever. But, you know, these poor fellas are going to be back at square one. So the question is, where are you at right now? Because, look, for me, you might have heard my beloved van, it finally died back in the summer of last year. The engine finally exploded. And so it's time for a new van. It's time for a new van. You can't stop the van. You can't stop it. You can't legislate against it. You can't impose your will upon it. It's impossible, right? So for those of you who are whining and crying about the fucking Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, shut the fuck up. They can't do shit to you, right? Only you can stop forest fires. That's the goddamn truth. So having said all that, let me kind of dig into the some of these chats here. I see your commentary. I see Kevin. Welcome. Blink if you're okay. Blink twice if you've been kidnapped. Yeah, I've been kidnapped into an aurora borealis, localized entirely within my kitchen at this time of year, as I prepare my steamed hams for an unforgettable luncheon with Superintendent Chalmers. So anywho, what was I going to do here? I wanted to, I don't know, this is going to be pretty quick. I just wanted to pop on here and tell you guys about a couple of things that we got coming on in the pipeline and maybe engage a little bit, answer some questions. So in light of everything kind of opening up, infield trainings, aka boot camps, are on the menu again. I got one coming up next weekend here in San Francisco, California. The park's been fucking phenomenal, especially once daylight savings has come back. It's just going to be even better. So next weekend, March 19th, I believe 2 or possibly even 3 weeks after that, got another one coming up. And then we're all, myself, Tyler, Julian, Luke, Madison, special guests. We are all convening the week of April 15th through 19th in Miami, Florida for the Miami Winter Summit, although technically it's going to be the Spring Summit. And you can go and check that out and see if you want to maybe attend this wonderful event. It's going to be, safety protocols and all that will be observed. Due diligence is being done for your health concerns, for those of you who are worried about that. And it's going to be in Miami, downtown Miami this year, April 15th to 19th. You can go to MiamiWinterSummit.com if you want to check that out and possibly register for that. That could be some cool stuff. And then I'll also, F for the fallen van. Drop an F in the chat. And then beyond that, in the description below here, I'm going to post a link if you are interested in possibly doing infield trainings either this spring or this summer with me. This is actually going to be the last year I do boot camps. Why? Well, because, I'm a 45-year-old man. I've been doing them for 20 years. And as much as I love them, it's time for me to possibly leave that behind and go into other endeavors and use the van for personal use and not waste every single one of my weekends running around with you knuckleheads. So, again, I know you hear this a lot. It sounds like some kind of marketing hype. The last tour. Well, this time it actually is. Okie dokie. So, the plastic guitar, the booze guitar, as it's known, that is still definitely a thing. It's going on. It's all happening. It's all going down. So, and then beyond that, I also run a very I guess you might call it a small, intimate mentoring group with a hand-selected group of individuals. And again, I got to keep this group very small due to the level of personal attention we give on these calls. On the twice-a-week calls, and what we focus on in the mentoring, and it's kind of very interesting. Let me call up a graphic for this real quick, if I may. I have the fucking graphic here. Yes. Is Julian going to be on the boot camp as well? Julian's done. Julian's tenure, Julian's watch has ended as well. So again, this stuff, if you want to be with these, I guess these 20-year veterans of running these programs every weekend all around the world. Again, I probably run more boot camps than I'm probably like top 5 of experienced veterans at running these types of programs in literally the world. So pretty fucking good at it, if I do say so myself. But what I did want to call up was, let's see, an overlay here. Just kind of give you an insight into what we talk about on the mentoring calls. So on the mentoring calls, we actually get into, it's an 8-week program, and what we talk about is, in fact, that's not even the good. Who's the special guest? I'm not sure who the special guest is going to be, actually. But you know, the special guest could be anyone. It could be maybe Brendan Carter. I'm not sure. Some of your favorites. It wouldn't be that special if we knew who the special guest was, would it? For fuck's sake. Having some boomer moments here, some technical difficulties. Just trying to call my overlays, or scenes up here. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, so over the course of the 8-week mentoring, you know, you see the first upper half of this is all kind of inner game work, and this is stuff that you can work on without even going out. And then the last 4 is kind of like rubber meets the road technical stuff in terms of actual interactions. So when I'm talking about outer projection, we're talking about the face, the voice, body language, because that's stuff that really gets overlooked, I believe, a lot of the time. You get these guys who've been studying technique for years, but then they go up and they're saying the same stuff that we're saying, but the people just won't pay attention to them. Like literally, they won't even pay attention to them. They'll look at them and they'll kind of be like, like they're just giving off a bad vibe. And for years, I was like, I would tell these guys, well, you know, you seem kind of stifled. I want to see more emotional color, smile more, things like this. And what I found that did, it would just make the student feel more judged, but at the same time, it's not giving them any clear descriptive means of actually making the change. It's just like putting them more in their head. So I wanted to change the way that these criticisms or this feedback, I guess, was verbalized and get very, very specific and provide actionable, practical steps to improve the vibe. Like how the hell do you teach someone to improve their vibe, right? It seems so nebulous. But really what it's about that so-called quote-unquote 90% of communication that's nonverbal. And of course what we're talking about there is we're talking about special guest or mullet. Actually, the mullet is coming back now. So there is no ex-mullet, there's a current mullet. And I hope you like it. Okay, so when we're talking about that 90% of nonverbal communication, you know, we're talking about from inwards to like inwards and the most inner sort of ephemeral energies, downwards and outward to external communication, external expression of your ideas and thoughts. So again, you've got your intuitive impulses, which operate on a largely subconscious level and provide sort of suggestions of things you could say. You got your emotional process that's coloring everything. You got your intellect that's observing, analyzing, deciding, and of course judging, which kind of sucks. That's where a lot of these problems come into play. And then externally, finally, you've got the musculature of the face and your eye contact process through which you're sending specific emotional messages and kind of packets of emotional information. You've got your vocal tonality, which is distinct from vocal content, right? And isn't that an interesting thing to think about? You've got the content of the things you're saying. And I think that historically there's been like an overemphasis on the content, right? The verbal content of what's being said. And there's been really sort of a disconnect in terms of looking at the language musicality, I guess you would call it, of how it is being said. Because those two things can be radically different, right? And the classic example I always give is you know, just say you have a kid, ask their parent, "Mommy, do you love me? Do you love me?" And the parent responds, "Oh, of course I love you." Said like that, it means what it says, right? Not a lot of unusual tonality or emphasis being put on any word. However, you could phrase that, you could apply many different types of language musicality to that to give it radically different meanings. You know, for example, "Do you love me, Mommy?" Of course I love you. Like annoyance or sarcasm. "Oh, of course I love you. Of course." Of course I love you, right? Or just angry. Like, of course I love you, right? All of those things, again, are radically different than the actual verbal content of the words. And again, then you've also got body language, which, your posture, your movement through space, proximity, touch, all of those things comprise what essentially is called, for lack of a better term, we could call it the vibe. Now, this is very interesting because we've all heard that, we've literally all heard that phrase, which is what? 90% of communication is nonverbal. However, isn't it interesting that in all of this stuff, even since the early days, that's been given largely like short shrift. No one pays attention to the 90% of nonverbals. No one bothered to teach that. So then you get what we see in practice, which is a lot of guys who've studied technique for years. Hell, these motherfuckers have very likely even taken several programs. They know the theory like the back of their hand. They know the tactics, the technique like the back of their hands. They can recite the lines. However, they're simply just not able to hold attention long enough to execute the fucking technique. And so this was, I felt like a very major hole in my coaching game, if you will, where I'm like, well, if I can't teach these guys how to vibe, that's a huge problem because they're just going to stay stuck there. Like again, and look, if you follow my stuff for any length of time, you know damn well that I'm a firm believer in technique. Okay, I believe in technique is essential. It's absolutely essential. Because if you want to have some banal conversation with a cashier, or like wave hi to your neighbor when you go to pick up the mail at the mailbox in the morning, that does not require technique. He's like, hey Bill, how's it going? How's the lawn look? How's the azaleas looking, Bill? That does not require technique. However, if you want to sell and close sales, if you want to negotiate, if you want to, apply for a highly sought after, business opportunity or job position. If you want to get romantic with somebody you just met, these are not things that the average person does on a daily basis. These types of skills, they require technique, they require control, they require precision, they require practice. So again, far be it for me to discount technique. It's absolutely essential. But what I found is historically, a lot of people, they have this overt focus on technique. And what ends up happening is they just ignore the vibe. So again, you want to think of it like this. You've got two things happening. And there are many such opposites in this field of social interaction. You've got energy versus repose. You've got playfulness versus seriousness. You've got discipline versus freedom. Direct versus indirect. There's many such opposites that need to be reconciled. One thing I always say is, if you have any kind of field of polar opposite, or a spectrum of opposites, understand that the greatest vitality at any point along that spectrum is through the integration of the opposites that form the poles. So, direct, indirect. Well, sometimes you're going to be direct, sometimes you're going to be indirect. And there's a lot of people out there that can navigate this duality, if you will, with a minimum of intellectual effort. Right? I'm like, sometimes I'm direct, sometimes I'm indirect. There's no, if you take into their logical extremes, both of those are fucking useless. Some guys just like, I'm Mr. Super Indirect. I just go up and kind of go under the radar, and go along to get along. Hope it works out by itself. Like that's not going to happen. You're just going to get tons of real nice times. You're going to have a nice time, a nice interaction that does what? Fizzles out. Like this is the most common thing I hear, quite frankly, among noobs. Like they're like, yeah, I can go up and talk, but it just kind of fizzles out, right? Because they never try to introduce what they're proposing, let's just say. And conversely, then you've got other people who just go for it, like right off the bat. They're just like, hey, like power bombing. Yeah, I heard beast mode's the way. Like power bomb with my dick. And then that'll, quite frankly, it's probably better than hanging in the cut and doing nothing, all things considered. But still, taken to its logical extreme, it fucking sucks. So on this, you want to think of these. Again, so for somebody who is able to navigate that without going to that black and white thinking or that duality, they're like, yeah, sometimes I'm indirect, sometimes I'm direct, and sometimes that might change in the middle of a sentence. And they've learned to see the synthesis. In other words, they've learned to find the directness implicit in the indirect vibe and vice versa. So what we're talking about here ultimately is two things. You've got this horizontal plot development, aka technique, that you need to understand and move forward as you're interacting with somebody. right? Moving towards the business deal, moving towards the close, moving towards the partnership, moving towards going to the after party, whatever it is. And knowing the waypoints of that and having enough familiarity with that technique that you can execute it with, a minimum of intellectual attention required. And then, secondly, you've also got what you might term, what I like to call, vertical vibe expansion. Okay? So, again, you have to go up and be able to understand how to use your face, your voice, and your body in combination to create a compelling vibe that's going to stick out from the environment, that's going to kind of crack through their RAS and gain emotional relevance in a possibly an environment that's very fraught with distraction. You know, you've got, I've got the alcohol, the lights, the music, the dancing, my friends, this, that, the next thing, and you're going to try to go up and be this like milquitoast motherfucker who's just like, hey, what's up? What's up? Oh, yes. Oh, that's certainly going to... Yeah, like, in what fucking universe does that work? I used to just be astounded at this. I'd be like, what do they think is going to happen? Like in their mind, like, and I would ask them, I'd be like, in your mind, what is the perfect outcome of that? Like, what's going to happen? You're going to go up and be like, what's up? And they're going to be like, oh, hello, sir, good sir. Allow me to ignore my friends I've come with. Allow me to stop dancing to WAP with my booze, and let me drop all of this and now place your little willy in my mouth. Like, no. There is, I don't know, again, I don't know what universe that happens in, but it ain't this one. Maybe the one where Hitler cured cancer, but it ain't this one. You're going to want to get your Rick and Morty fucking portal gun and transfer over there, because what up ain't going to cut it here, buddy. You know? And again, unfortunately, these aren't like bad people. They're not stupid people. But here's what's going on. It's like over the years, negative social counter conditioning has convinced us that it's useful and necessary to repress emotional expression. Anytime that your intellect senses an impulse to express yourself that is somehow threatening or dangerous, and that could just be even like a smile, or even vulnerable emotional messages being sent with the face, or even being a little bit more animated with your vocal tonality, or even gesturing in a way that might be a little different, a little outside of the box or unusual, it calls into play these interference patterns to shut it down. Now, unfortunately, we've held these tension blocks to be useful and necessary for so long that very often we're not even aware of the controlling chain of events. All we know is that we can't express ourselves the way that we do in our minds. And there's this gap between how you think you're expressing yourself and what's actually perceived by people. And so the aim of the mentoring is to kind of dig in and get very specific, down to kind of the molecular level. And we do a lot of exercises that are basically diagnostic in nature, that are designed to put extra demands upon the face, voice, and body in ways that you wouldn't actually do in actual interactions, to magnify and tease out the root sources of these tension entanglements, as I call them. And then with awareness, without shame or guilt, then you can begin the process of releasing them and replacing their manifestations in your life. So when you go out, you're able to be free-flowing. You're able to be that kind of suave person in your mind that you think of, that you envision when you're going up, and not kind of the shut down, in your head, stifled version, right? And the efficacy of these exercises, it's quite frankly, it's quite impressive to me, you know, because I wanted to create like an exercise process that would serve as a vehicle for that journey of getting from stifled to unstifled and able to create a vibe. And then, of course, it goes hand in hand, and then you get the technique involved, and that's when you're gold. You know, that's when you can just go up. You're going to be able to get past social hook very, very quickly, and consistently, most importantly. And then you can start executing the plot development. Because the thing is, look, if you can't hold their fucking attention for like longer than a minute, that's not enough time to execute the plot development. That's not enough time to execute the technique, right? If we're talking about a romantic encounter with someone you just met, typically, you know, that's going to be like 45 minutes at the bare minimum. Again, rule of thumb. You know, it's up to a couple hours. The guys are always thinking, how do I open? How do I open? It's like, it's not necessarily what you say when you first meet them. It's what you say for the next like 45 minutes to the next 2 hours. Right? So so in order to, like, again, not run out of things to say, you got to have access. You got to have you have to have exercised an allowing of intuitive impulses. Because very often, again, we're always being served up intuitive impulses of stuff to say. But, the intellect wants to judge that in process. It wants to judge the potential usefulness or potential harmfulness of this thing I want to say in process. But the thing is, there is no timeout in actual interactions. So what ends up happening is, you don't say anything at all. The moment passes, and then you're just shut down. Right? So we got exercises in the mentoring to actually open. You can't call forth intuition. You can exercise your ability to allow it. Right? And that's really what we focus on. So anyway, again, it's a very small, intimate group. I want you to join this mentoring if you want to be able to hit the ground running when everything opens up. And then, ideally, you'd also come on a boot camp program with me in field. We train both. We train both sides of the coin. And again, this shit, honestly, once you have this stuff down, it's truly life-changing because you have an awareness. Like this, look, somebody put in the chat here, you ended the game with ETP, which was execute the program, like my online game program. Why did I put out ETP? I put out ETP because it was this. I had developed a personal system for pulling off of Tinder and getting, having success on those dating apps, like immense success, let's just say. But with great power comes great responsibility. But then I also wanted to share that. Like, dude, this helps me. It's nothing like unique to me. Anyone could literally do this shit. Let's put it out. Let's create a program. Put it out. So again, the past couple of years, number one, the seed was like seeing how I couldn't teach guys vibe. So I wanted to learn how to teach vibe. So that was number one. And then number two, as I started to investigate, like this model, I guess, of what I'm kind of calling the human energy system, for lack of a better term, pretty terrible term, and it's kind of dorky, but this really changed the way I looked at my own personal communication. Now, I want to address something I just saw pop up in the chat here. I thought you don't want to monitor what you say and don't have a filter. Exactly. You do not want to do that. Because look, the function of intellect, the mind, as we call it, the intellect, it can be a bridge or a barrier between the inner energies and the outer expression, right? So the problem with the intellect is, in part due to the phenomenal success of empiricism and rationalization, that too, in our society, science and all that. It's like intellect has elevated itself to a position of authority over all the other areas, all the other so-called modes. And unfortunately, very often, the intellect is not equipped to handle these very energies that it's elevated itself to be in control of, right? Look, here's the thing. The intellect can only work with with data that is information that is available to it in its conscious working memory, right? Like what's available to it in front of it right now. Intuition is not subject to that. Intuition it's a subconscious process of memory retrieval that can draw from various constellations of memories, even like from information that was like subconsciously acquired. And it can draw associations through these constellations of different memories and provide suggestions of things to say and do. Now, the problem is, as those suggestions bubble up to the surface, very often, the intellect, again, wants to judge the value of those in process before they're said. And that's when we have a problem. The intellect, look, it's not a villain, right? It can observe, it can analyze, it can remember from the past, it can learn from the past, it can plan for the future. But unfortunately, it can also judge, right? And when it judges potential emotional expression to be dangerous, again, this might make me seem silly, stupid, pushy, aggressive. That's when we run into problems. That's when we run into, becoming stifled, quote unquote. So you want the intellect, we want through exercise, we want to increase the amount of time that the intellect spends in useful and productive activity, as opposed to being this fucking judgmental hindrance that, again, causes tension, which prevents you from expressing yourself freely and kind of makes you look like you're second-guessing yourself and just, again, causes a weird vibe that other people don't want to be around. They don't want to be around it. So when you're able to kind of get the intellect off the court, so to speak, and relegate it to a coaching role, right? The coach won't play on the court. Coach is off to the side, kind of just guiding a little bit, calling the plays here and there, making creative choices. We don't want to throw the judgmental baby out with the bathwater here, but we do need to kind of put it in check a bit. We do kind of need to put it in check. So and open up that allowing function of the allowing function of intuition to kind of assert itself a little bit more. But again, when you don't have that vibe, people are just like, yo, I just want to get away from this dude because he feels stifled. It's making me feel stifled, and I'm just trying to relax here. So no, thank you. I don't want what's being sold here, sir. It was nice to meet you. But when you do have that freedom, from the perspective of the people you're interacting with, the value that they get out of it is this expanded sense of human potential that's being conveyed, right? In other words, they're like, wow, this person's very free and unstifled in ways that perhaps I am not. And by hanging out with this person, I'm kind of getting getting a whiff of that myself. And perhaps if I were to hang out with this person more, I could learn to become like that as well, right? So again, as you learn to open these channels up and become more free, it's like for you personally, kind of the feeling of this uninhibited flow in these previously inhibited areas, it's personally exhilarating for you, and it's very gratifying for the people that you interact with. In fact, I dare say even highly attractive, right? Again, this, like literally anyone you speak to, whether it's your friends, your family, strangers, they're going to benefit from just being around this, right? That's what fucking charisma is. Like, what is it? It's basically uninhibited energy flow. Right, to put a kind of new agey spin on it, if you will. And I'd say that, just kind of looking at the chat here, release tension, use intuition. So tension is like the overarching, I guess, tenet of my program, the Charisma Mentoring Program, Charisma Mastery. If I had to put it out there, would be tension is the enemy. However, its removal is complicated and often unpredictable. You'll get rid of it in one area, it'll pop up in another. And this is a reflection of the interconnected nature of the system, right, of the so-called energy system. The nimbus, I used to call it that. Yeah, that was interesting. I used to refer to it as like the nimbus. Like I felt like when I had really free flow, like essentially what we're trying to do is hit what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi used to call flow state, where there's not a lot of the intellect, like the intellect is not really involved per se. It's like you're allowing whatever training you have, and by the way, to hit flow state, it requires enough familiarity with the given technique that it requires little of the intellect's conscious attention. Not zero, but little, and you can just start that flow process. And for people who are accustomed to, over-intellectualizing and control, this can when they hit that flow state, it can seem terrifying to them because it kind of feels like they've lost control. And in a sense, they have, because they've relinquished that intellectual control, and they're allowing their impulses to flow freely. And again, for somebody who's been guarded in their communication their whole life, this can seem very threatening, particularly with the face. This is why you see people who have like a very sort of what we call facial armoring, seeming inability to smile naturally, little facial mobility in general. They kind of have what we call sad face, this mask of serious, anxious, and deadpan, sad face, SAD. And then, perhaps worst of all, their eye focus process and their eye contact, it doesn't really seem to convey anything of what's going on in the mind, right? It's just sort of this dead, cadence, blank stare. People often ask, I'm like, yo, when you go and talk to people tonight, I want you to stand in front of them and look them directly in the eye. And people often say, well, couldn't that seem creepy? Well, yeah, if it's like this dead stare, right? But again, even when you're like not actively speaking or communicating, you're listening or receiving or perceiving, you can have a sense of like readiness, engagement, anticipation, right? A sense of what's being talked about, being thought about in the mind, as opposed to this, again, just brick wall where you're giving them nothing. And when that happens, again, there's this amygdala-driven search for threat or difference or danger in the environment all the time. And when they can't tell what you're feeling behind the eyes, again, as my buddy Derek used to say, I don't know if you want to kiss me or kill me. He put it differently. But but yeah, I mean, so it's very important. You want to move from there to more of a, I guess what you might call positive behavioral expressive characteristics in the face, which would be, again, a face that seems alive, like the musculature in the eyes. alive, interesting, compelling, fascinating, charismatic, right? A strong sense of what is being talked about, being thought about in the mind. A strong sense of, again, a strong amount of facial mobility in general. And again, this holds true for the voice as well. Do you speak in this sort of monotone? Do you have this sort of cadenced sort of rut that you speak in again and again? Do you have, are in your body language, are you very tight? Is there like a lot of tightness or held qualities that aren't really contributing anything to the interaction itself? Do you, there's a number of like negative behavior expression characteristics that are largely I guess you might call physical embodiments of intellectual tension, because the mind really can't do shit to shut anything down by itself. It's just electrical impulses in the brain. So it calls the body into play as its kind of enforcer to shut down the impulses to express. And over time, this happens almost simultaneously. The impulse to express comes up. The interference control pattern to shut it down with physical tension almost happens simultaneously. Like insofar as the relationship and time is concerned, they might as well be the same event. And then this ultimately leads to what we call the repression-expression error, where you believe that you start to mistake the repression of emotional energy for its actual expression. And it's this fucking vicious cycle, and then you're just kind of shut down. And again, you can study all the technique in the world, but you got this very off-putting vibe and you're not even able to get off the ground, right? So again, this is what we talk about this is what I've been teaching for the past several years now. I've been teaching this stuff overall for 18 years, 18 and a half now. And, again, I understand, I'm very good at this, let's just say. And I've got a lot of little tricks to sort of wake up your little inner charisma demon, to summon him forth in an eldritch horror and get them to start, doing the work for you, putting in that work. And like, dude, it is such a weird thing because, I've seen, like I said before, and this is no bullshit, I've seen students who struggle with this for many years, but then if you can get them to understand this stuff, to create a vibe, again, the difference, it's really like the difference between having this kind of so-so interaction where it's like, okay, it's kind of mad, they'll talk to you, versus making them love you. And when they love you, they'll ditch their fucking friends. Not all the time, obviously, but like I've had many times where they're like, no, I'm going with him. They're like, no, come on. Like no, going with this guy. I even had one time recently where her friend like fell off the stage and like got a concussion. And I'm like, well, I guess it's over. She's like, no, we'll put her in an Uber. We'll go back to your house. I'm like, damn, okay, shit. Even I wouldn't do that at this point. I'd go home with a friend. I'm like trying to convince her to leave. Oh shit, but it's very, very amusing. But that's everything when you understand that difference, right? And so again, like I said, I'm currently running personal mentoring in a very intimately small group. It's like less than 10 people at the moment. And we have to keep that class intimately small because, like I said, we offer a lot of personal attention, right? So I want you to get serious about your life. I want you to join this course. The details to apply are going to be in the description below this video. Once I post it. But again, the time is nigh. The time has come. The time has come. The time has come. Like the springtime, it's going to be the spring of ripped membranes or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to say that in a non-vulgar way. But again, this shit's almost over. I can feel it in the air, right? Everyone's getting their lizard person vaccination. Like everything's opening back up, and this is like a champagne bottle under massive pressure. It's been like that for a year. It's about to explode all over your chest. You understand? This summer, maybe not the spring so much, but this summer, if you're equipped, if you're ready to hit the ground running, it is going to be, I believe, legendary. This is going to be one of those times that you're going to look back on and be like, damn, that was one of the crazy. It'll be like the summer of love or something like that. I go Sergeant, yeah. It's going to be phenomenal. The time has come. The time has come, gentlemen and ladies. Insane to the membrane. Get your scales. Get your nictating membranes. Get your ability to camouflage. All from the DNA that will be, in you and in others. And then after that, it'll be in others. Your DNA will be in others as well. Through the magic of the birds and the bees. But again, if you've been like kind of lurking at the home and not practicing this stuff, and again, like I said, you can practice this stuff at home. You can practice vibe at home. Because like I said, most of the exercises we do in the program are diagnostic. So the question is, when we're doing, say, imagination exercises or intuition exercises, or we're doing exercise with the face, voice, and body, the question is this: can I do whatever I want right now with my face, the musculature of the face, to send emotional information? Can I do whatever I want with my voice to modify, with the language, musicality, and tonality, to modify the meaning in very nuanced ways? Can I do whatever I want with my body in body language? Can I do whatever I want with my face, voice, and body in any combination right now? If the answer is no, well, then this begs the question, why the fuck not? Right? And then once we get down and we identify those and pinpoint the source of those inner blocks and how they manifest, now with awareness, we can start, again, releasing those tensions, and we can start replacing those manifestations in your life. And then what were formerly default necessities now become choices. And by doing so, in that process of transformation, they gain power. Okay? So if you're going up and you have that deadpan face and you got this feeling of helplessness, in that moment, all you can convey is a sense of being helpless. However, if you gain the ability to do anything you want with your face, voice, body, vocal tonality, intuition, say whatever you want, right, without judgmental hindrances happening with the intellect, now you could even go up and convey a sense of a calm, almost helplessness from a place of power, which is utterly fascinating to me because, again, individual expressive choices gain power by the range of choice potential surrounding them, right? So, for example, if we train you to be like very, like let's say in the mentoring, you learn how to be like super wacky with your face and crazy with your voice as well, to do all these crazy voices and have all these crazy gesticulations. You're never going to do that in actual interactions with people. Tyler might. But most likely you're not going to do that. You're never going to even approach that in actual interactions with people. But the thing is, like, look, here's an analogy for you. Let's say that I'm a karaoke singer, big fan, hobby of mine. Let's say that I'm singing something, and I go to hit the high note, and I've trained only to hit that high note. And when I hit it, I kind of have to strain. I have to strain to hit it. Okay, that's one approach. However, let's say that I trained far beyond that note. So when I hit that, I don't even have to break a sweat. I can hit that in my sleep. So point being, if they never see you approach the limits, there's this sense of intrigue or mystery where they're like, damn, maybe this person could do anything, right? Whereas if they see you kind of straining to hit it, they're like, oh, okay, there's the limit. Okay, there's the limit. And kind of the illusion is broken. Right, the illusion falls down, and then they're like, okay, that's as much as he can do. So again, in these kind of trainings, when we're training like the face, voice, body, do all this crazy stuff, you're never going to do that in actual interactions. But by never having to approach your limits, now there's this sense of potentiality where it's like this mysterious, like, whoa, what else could they do? Damn, I feel like this person is like expressive in a way I've never seen or encountered before. Right now, of course, then you pair that with technique. And you're scary, like you're scary good, and not in any figurative sense of the word. Like you'll often scare yourself. Like, damn, is this like you're a wizard, Harry? Like it feels like magic. You're like, damn, dude, I'm just too fucking good at this shit. It's not even fair. It's not even fucking fair. But of course, you're going for win-win outcomes, so it's not like you're like pulling the wool over anyone's eyes or anything. But it's just like butter. It's like butter. Not to say that some people are not going to be down with what you're selling or pitching or your vibe. Again, you're not for everyone. You're for some, not for others, and that always holds true. But when you find those people you got chemistry with, it's just going to be such a powerful connection. It's insane. So, anywho, like I said, just wanted to pop in and do a quick live here. June from 2018 boot camp. What's up? Welcome. You're killing me, Smalls. Potentiality matrix. Very cool. Yeah, so I will be in Miami for the big party. Like I said, the big party is going, I believe it's going to be April 15th to 19th. It is the RSD World Summit, Winter Summit, I believe. And let's have a look here. Because I know they sent me the link for this. So I believe it's just rsdwintersummit.com. Or, I mean, for fuck's sake, I really should have been more prepared for this. But you know, sometimes you just feel the urge to get on here and vibe, and it is what it is. Let's see, what do we got here? Domo arigato. Yeah, it's miamiwintersummit.com, okay? miamiwintersummit.com. miamiwintersummit.com. And additionally, again, yeah, you say, how do I prepare for when everything's open again? You prepare by joining the mentoring. So, or taking an infield training with me, right? Again, I'm able to be like fairly shameless about hyping this stuff because I know the efficacy of these programs. I've seen it firsthand. They're literally life-changing. So, you know, no bullshit. So having said that, if you're interested in maybe exploring where we could help you with some of these issues, and again, help you to have the summer of your wildest dreams, hit the link I'm going to pop in the description here below, and I will see you in the program. Anyway, this has been your proverbial boy, Jeffy. And I'll probably be, oh, by the way, FYI, I'm also doing free tour tomorrow, this Thursday. So if you want to kind of circle back around for that and ask me some more questions to engage, I will be more than happy to answer all of them to the best of my ability, as always, because I live to serve. I live to serve y'all. Get ready for the pressure to explode. All right, guys, see you tomorrow. Peace.